I started my company, Myers House Buyers, 4 years ago, which is one way of saying I was in corporate America for 13 years, trying to earn as much income as I could, save as much as I could, and buy rentals on the side.
Yep.
So I did that from age 22 to 35.
You were keeping your 9-to-5 income and doing that.
That's right.
As you went. Yep.
And then at that point I said, which I'm 39 now, so about 4 years ago, I said, why don't I think I can do this full time and create an income out of it, a vocational income. So I resigned from corporate America and started Myers House Buyers. As of today, we do about $1 million a year in top line gross revenue with a really healthy net profit percentage. And we do 3 forms of outbound direct to seller marketing. We do postcards with DealMachine. We do search engine optimization, which is essentially maintaining a great Google My Business profile and website, MyersHouseBuyers.com. And then the third thing we do is cold calling, which we have outsourced to a vendor at Collective Genius that we got connected to. So those are 3 things we do direct to seller. And then the 4th thing we do that brings deals in the front door is build relationships with real estate agents.
Yeah,
and we
I know
treat
you're really
them,
good at that. You even had a course at one time. Is that still something you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just operate in relationship with agents in accordance with the golden rule, treating them the way I would want to be treated. And we started that, in January of 2022. In 2021, I was able to do 3 deals on accident with real estate agents, and we made $95,000 off that with no marketing cost. So the majority of that was profit. And then in the last 3 years, we've done over $1 million in revenue just off relationships with real estate agents.
That's great.
Been a major thing for us.
That's amazing.
So that's kind of all we do on the front end to bring deals in the door, is those 4 things. Then what do we do on the back end? We do a lot of different things. I mean, I've bought and hold rentals for 20 years now. So that's obviously one thing we do. Fix and flip. We've got 6 to 7 flips going right now. We have about $1.8 million in flips listed. And then thirdly, we will wholesale as well, which means, if people aren't familiar with that, it's basically leveraging a network of investor partners that pay cash for homes. And we resell the property to them. And essentially, it's a service where they don't have to do any of the marketing and sales. And they rely on us to do that. And then we just bring the deal on a silver platter to them at a certain price, and with the time they can view it, and just kind of a nice, neat little bow around the top of the present. And and they appreciate that. And so we do that as well. And that's pretty much a brief summary.
When did you decide to go full-time and actually do this thing? You were done with corporate.
Yeah.
When was that?
November 2020.
Why was that the right time?
I had some decent positive income from rentals. It was probably I don't remember exactly, probably in the $5,000 to $8,000 a month range. And my wife had a 3-year stint of owning her own pediatric practice and was just very exhausted and needed some chill years, just to relax and kind of take a break and be a stay-at-home mom for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And so it's funny how God works. In November of 2020, she closed her pediatric practice. And in November of 2020, I launched Myers House Buyers. It all kind of happened in the same month. It wasn't even something we really, I don't know that we even talked about it.
Wait, you lost your house buying company?
No, I started it.
Oh,
Sorry.
you started
I launched
it. Yeah.
it. Excuse me. I launched Myers House Buyers. And then she was at home and I was off to the races, trying to figure out how to market and sell. I knew how to sell, so that was never a hard thing for me. But marketing to bring deals in the door and then figuring out how to monetize those on the back end, I didn't know how to do, but I knew that I was extremely hungry and I would eat off the floor. If there was You know, if I dropped a little piece of my Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit on the floor right here, I was hungry and if I had to eat off the floor. And I've just always had that internal drive to be successful in whatever I've done. So, yeah, that was ultimately when we launched, November 2020.
It is really interesting how things align like that sometimes.
Yeah.
It can be very motivating as well. When did you decide to hire somebody? I know we just had breakfast with your acquisitions manager, Zach.
Yeah. I had a friend whose name was Andre, and he wanted to learn from me about how to build wealth through buy and hold rentals. And I didn't really want to be a coach. I didn't want to try and build a coaching business. And so the best solution I could think up was to work with Andre and give him the coaching he wanted in exchange for him helping me with some of the administrative tasks at Myers House Buyers. So today, he did for me what we today would call a lead manager, which essentially means I was mailing out postcards. That was all I knew how to do. And he took those inbound phone calls from people that got the postcard and wanted to sell, and he would set an appointment for me, and an in-person appointment. And then I would go on those appointments and then, listen and ask questions and use kind of the sales training I had, which was through a company called Sandler Sales Training. And so Andre was my first team member, and so I had him on day one.
Okay.
But he worked off of
He wanted mentorship.
He wanted mentorship. So I gave him that. I don't remember how frequently, but we had basically a deal where I would give him coaching in exchange for a part-time work week. So I think he worked for me for like 20 hours a week. And I was extremely thrifty and frugal and didn't want to take risks. So I was able to get a free office from a local real estate brokerage that was very generous.
How did you score that?
They were my last stop in corporate America. It was a company called Maybaum, and they were a phenomenal brokerage and the largest in the market. And they were generous enough to allow me to use one of their offices for a temporary time. And it might have been 6 months or 12 months. And Andre and I worked out of that office and kind of cranked things up. And I didn't close my first deal till 5 months in.
That could be tough for Andre too, right?
Oh yeah, it was brutal.
But he stuck with you 20 hours a week?
He did, yep, he did. We worked together for, I think it was 8 or 9 months total.
Not a lot of people will do that. How did you know it was worth investing in Andre that you thought obviously he was worth, investing in and he stuck through, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I just think I personally knew I couldn't do everything. And I'm a very social, extroverted person. I don't really like to work alone anyway. So for me, having a warrior in the office alongside me was just kind of a good fit.
How'd you know he was a warrior? Because that's the thing. If he wasn't, you wouldn't like him around.
Yeah. That's a good question. I don't know. I knew his wife was very close to working with my wife at the pediatric practice.
So
they were
both
personal
relationship. Yeah.
Personal relationship, and then I knew him from church really well for several years. So
that's awesome.
I think there's comfortability through that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the first deal, did you get it or did Andre get it?
It was me. You want me to walk you through the story?
I do, yeah.
It was a bizarre story. And it wasn't even from any of my marketing. That's the funny part about the story. But I had a commercial. So my last stop in corporate America, I was a commercial real estate agent. And so I knew, and I'd had a kind of a leadership role in the commercial brokerage. So I knew about 10 or 15 commercial real estate agents. And one of them had a really weird property. It was like a hybrid. It was a single family home, but it wasn't on like a half acre. It was on 2.5 acres. And it was near like a post office, kind of tucked back, like in this little acreage that kind of got left over when some things developed commercially. And so it had been listed by 4 different commercial real estate agents for like 3 years. and they listed it for like 400 and then down to 350. And then he listed it for like 275 or something. And it was listed by him for like a year. And then he just let me know about it. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll make an offer on it and you can write my offer. And I offered something crazy low. I mean, it was like 90, because I was very uncertain what I was gonna do with the property, you know? And we went back and forth for a while, and I was like, well, I'll give you an offer that's, you know, I gotta have 2 weeks due diligence, and I'll do 140. So they finally came down from 180, which is where they were, to 140. So this is a great story. I'm so glad you asked me about this. So I ended up deciding to wholesale the property to another 2 guys. Their names were Jimmy and Marcus. And they went and looked at the property, and they offered me $182,000, which I was like, remember, I hadn't made any money in 5 months. So I accepted their offer, double closed, which simply means I just bought the property for 140 and then sold it for 182.
And they didn't know how much you made because you double closed.
Yes, but even if they had known, they wouldn't have cared, because here's the funny part of the story. They turned around and listed the property was formerly listed, but it was on commercial real estate networks like CoStar, LoopNet. They turned around and listed the property on the MLS, which a commercial agent wouldn't typically do that. And so they hired a residential real estate agent, listed it on the MLS for $250, and immediately sold it for $250.
Wow. Bigger buyer pool.
Yeah, which is just, it's funny how the value chain works in real estate. And but for me, that deal was a wonderful respite from not having made any money for 5 months. And then I was off to the races.
So who were these 2 guys that you, like, how did you find them?
I met Jimmy at the tax lien sale at a local, it was the Richmond County, a local county tax lien sale. So those, you pretty much have serious investors that pay cash.
Yeah, you have to come with a cashier's check.
Yeah.
But you can go as like a onlooker. You don't have to be there to buy stuff.
I was never going to buy. So
it's kind of cool because it's casual, right? It's like people bring lawn chairs.
Right.
I'm guessing it's how my experience has been.
Same thing, yeah.
I never went my first few years because I was like, oh man, they're going to know I'm not like legit.
Yeah.
But the most legit people are there with a lawn chair, you know, just chilling.
That's right.
So, and most people don't even bid.
Yeah, no.
From what I saw.
I didn't bid. I mean, I went for like a year. And
but never. Great for finding the legit people who do.
Right. So I went to that auction. It was the Richmond, it wasn't the foreclosure auction, it was the tax lien auction, which is a lot lower prices if you think about it when people don't pay their property taxes. So the county official gets up and says the rules for the tax lien auction. This is what a non-judicial sale is. This is what a judicial sale is. And then right when he gets done with that, he takes questions. And then right when those questions end, there's like a 1-minute lull in between the instructions and when they start with the first property. So right in that 1-minute lull, I ran up to the front near the podium and just said, can I have everyone's attention? My name is Paul Myers. I'm with Myers House Buyers, and I have, deeply discounted properties available if you would like to buy them. All you need to do is come see me, and I've got a clipboard here. I'll put your name, email, and cell phone. If you put it all right here on this list, I will ensure that I share with you a deeply discounted property that fits your buy box. And sure enough, there's probably
small crowd gathers.
Yeah, there's 30 or 40 people there, and like 10 people have immediately surrounded me. But I was giving them exactly what they wanted, right? And that's what an entrepreneur does: is you provide the value for people, and that in the way that they want it. And so I did that for those people. Well, one of those guys was this. I mean, he's like straight out of The Millionaire Next Door. He wore, I won't mention his last name, but he wore white New Balance tennis shoes, like he was retired in Florida or something. He had the just regular old Levi's jeans with like a white undershirt. And he just looked like, just your old Southern redneck. And his name was Jimmy. And Jimmy. Yeah, I almost said his last name. I won't say his last name, but. So I kept his information. And sure enough, when I had that opportunity with that property that was kind of a hybrid commercial residential property. Jimmy was the one. He showed up and he looked at it and he offered me 182 and we made a deal work. And I'm thankful to say that he made 70 grand after I made 42. And then the person he sold it to was an Indian gentleman who probably owned some surrounding parcels. And so he was buying it to essentially speculate and then, to have it develop it commercially in some way, even though the topography was really rough. And he still hasn't developed it to this day, 4 years later. It still has that single family home, but he's leased it out to a tree service company. And they're using it like a laydown yard. So everybody's got their own plans for properties, and it's hard to figure out what someone's going to do with something, but you just try and provide value and go from there.
What did Shannon think of that deal?
Oh man, I don't even remember. She was probably just like,
was she worried? I'm sure you guys had savings, obviously, but was she like worried that this wasn't going to work out? 5 months is a long time.
Yeah, it is. No, she's always kind of just believed in me and been, confident in my hunger level and my willingness to pursue mentors and.
Well, you're a lucky man to have that.
Yeah.
Did you celebrate in any way?
No, not really. I was just like, it was more
Time
of
for
like,
the next one. Yeah.
Exhale, it's like, I already knew that I could do everything I did, like, because I'd done a touch of wholesaling back in 2017 before that, while I was still in corporate America. It just proved too difficult for me to try and juggle both. But yeah, it was more of just a breathing a sigh of relief, and now let's just move on and keep working.
How long was it until Andre found his first deal?
Andre found an amazing deal from a real estate agent as well. It's funny how we pretty much started with agents because we just were connected to so many. I think when you live in one city your entire life and you've bought some rentals, you just kind of naturally build up a network of real estate agents that know.
Well, and you shared an office with a brokerage too, right?
Exactly.
So they knew you were there.
So that's the story of Andre's first deal. Is we were on the first floor of this brokerage, and all the way down the hallway in the corner office was one of their most successful agents, and her name was Anne Marie, and so she. For one reason or another, called Andre and not me, even though we both knew her.
Yeah.
And I'd probably known her longer, but she called him about a property, and we were able to buy that. And we felt like it had a bunch of problems, but as most of our deals do, right? There was, oh my gosh, the attic. There was like animal, like I don't know what kind of animal it was. Like squirrels or rats, or I don't know, but there was just like feces all in the attic.
Oh man.
And then there was mold in the property, like significant mold. But anyway, I can't remember the numbers on that one, but we bought it, paid cash, and then we actually didn't do anything with it except just put it on the MLS. So we didn't fix any of the problems. We just went what we would call a wholesale.
Yeah.
Which is just paying cash for something and then immediately relisting it on the MLS.
Got it.
And taking it to market. So we did that, and we were able to make a great profit on that property.
So with Andre's relationship with you, did he split the commission with you?
Yeah, I had a
Because you helped sell it, even though there was no marketing expense for him to receive that, you still helped sell it. Right. So
yes.
that was part of your arrangement.
That's right. So I think I don't remember if he negotiated and got the signed agreement or not, because at some point he started to do a little bit of acquisitions right at the end of his time with me. But yeah, we were able to do really well on that. So I paid him as if he were an acquisitions manager.
Got it.
I think I probably paid him like a 12% commission on whatever the gross profit was of it. So yeah, that was great.
Speaking of percentages, let's talk about like some percentages in the business. So what percentage, let's say if the deal is worth like $200,000, what percentage is like a standard wholesale fee, would you say? Or do you think about it like that?
Yeah, I only really know like what our average is.
So we'll talk about yours. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the average property worth, and what's the average fee?
I don't know that'd be a good thing for me to look at on my pipeline and check my Excel spreadsheet. But I think nationwide, my guess would be that the average would be around the $10,000 to $15,000 range.
But it certainly changes as it's a percentage, right? Because if you're in San Diego, Phil Green makes $100,000 on each one of his deals.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do that in Indianapolis. I don't know about Augusta.
Yeah,
either,
no, you couldn't.
Because the whole average home price in Indiana is like $250,000. So you're not making like you're making more like $15,000 on a deal like that in Indiana.
We're a little over 20,000. Our MSA is 500,000 people. So
What's the median home price?
Medium home price is probably like fixed up on market retail pricing would probably be in the 300s, like 325 maybe.
Nice. Okay.
So I don't know what that would be. Maybe 7 or 8% of the average
and that's
price.
the average retail price. That's in good condition.
Yeah.
So a deal that you're doing might be like 150, 200,000.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a $20,000 spread. So it's about 10% of the transaction price.
Yeah, I would say, at least. But we've got a lot of tools available to us in the ways we can provide value, both for sellers and then when we're exiting deals. So I don't ever really think of myself as like a real estate agent trying to make 3%, 6%, 7%.
Yeah.
I more so look at the deal and like what's capable here. What's the potential, and what would the most faithful stewardship of the deal look like? And then kind of hold myself to that standard.
Would you say that wholesaling was affected by interest rates that hiked up in the last year or two?
Not that I've seen. So, I mean, the majority of those transactions are going to be cash purchases. I'd say like 99%. So most of it's not affecting people. I mean, I think, and plus the rates have started coming back down now. Right? We've seen the Federal Reserve cut rates 2 times now in a row. So I think if investors were using their lines of credit, which we do certainly, there's been a little bit more of a alleviation of the high rate environment. So yeah, I think but mostly we really didn't see much effect.
Got it. Where do you think you would want to take your business in 2025? What are you coming to this meeting to learn, the beginning of the year?
Well, we've gotten to get away and do some of our goal planning, and I think there's probably a fourth marketing channel that we're wanting to add on. We're kind of on the fence between either adding a fourth or doing one of our existing ones at a more committed level in terms of money invested. So that's kind of one aspect.
Why do you know it's time to do a fourth marketing channel? You could do anything in your business, right? You could hire 3 more acquisitions managers.
Right.
You could cut marketing expenses and try to run it leaner. Why is the fourth channel like what you've chosen, would you say?
I don't know that we have I think there's financial elements at play. Like we've grown cold calling for our company to a point where it generated an incredible return on advertising spend that we're super thrilled about. But I've just had experiences where when you try and ramp up one channel more and more and more, you just experience diminishing returns. And I just don't want to experience that. I'd rather keep the spend super light, which in this case would be about $1,500 a month, and then dip my toe in and maybe add on another that's also $1,000 to $2,000 a month. I mean, if you're I'll just give you a frame of reference. Like we've spent in the last 4 months since adding on cold calling, we've spent $1,500 a month for 4 months. That's $6,000. We've been able to buy and sell 4 homes as a result of that, and we've grossed $140,000. So that's like, I don't know what the return on investment on that is, but it's ridiculously high, right?
Yeah.
It's probably 20x. So
you're afraid you could triple the spend and only make
Yes.
$180,000.
That's right.
Yeah, you're afraid of that. Where did that happen before? Just curious.
Postcards.
Got it.
You remember when I was #1 with DealMachine and we were sending out like 25,000 postcards a month? At some point, you saturate the market. Or like, let's take cold calling for instance. Like you can literally just run out of people to call. I mean, the market is the market. We have 500,000 people in our MSA, and so I just, we're calling, we're paying for premium data, right? And we're calling. We get 10,000 records a month, so we're gonna, try and not have to do buy twice the data for more expense, and then add on another cold caller. It's like, if we just add on a second cold caller, they'll go through the data too quickly, and then that marketing channel would just completely run dry. So it's just kind of pacing ourselves and being, I think, as a good steward, there is wisdom in, you dip your toe in the water, you spend some money, and I would recommend this to any beginning investor. You dip your toe in, spend some money, monitor that for 3 to 6 months. No less than 3 months, because what kind of a sample size of data is that? Right? It's not big enough. No more than 6 months, because then if you spent 45 grand on a channel, which I've done this, and made nothing, you got to cut it off at some point as an entrepreneur. So 3 to 6 months, evaluate the return on investment, look at the number of inbound calls, look at the number of scheduled appointments, look at the number of offers you made, look at how many signed agreements you got, and kind of what you're able to do with that. And then you can be a more informed steward. And I think that's just good stewardship.
I think that's maybe a really good place to end, because you told us how you started. You told us where you've gotten to over $1 million per year. And then you've brought it back to, hey, now you're adding a fourth marketing channel, but don't do that as a beginner. Why don't you guys try one thing for 3 to 6 months?
Right.
You don't want to quit too soon, but you also don't want to do it forever and see that it doesn't work. And the asterisk I would say is don't drive for dollars for 3 months and only add one property a week, though.
Right.
Your volume also needs to be in a range that makes sense. And the best way to learn that is probably kind of what you did, where you went to a tax sale and just kind of chatted up some investors. They don't even have to go on stage.
Yeah.
But they could just chat with whoever's around, in the lull.
And another funny part of that story that I don't know if I've ever told you, but after those first 5 months, I had a mentor, one of my mentors, his name was Victor. And I was telling him about the challenges I was having. And he was like, dude, you are so dumb. He said, I bet I could just go drive around. And he did not know what DealMachine was. He did not know what Driving for Dollars was. He's like in the HVAC business. He's like, I bet I could just go drive around in these 2 zip codes and I could do a deal while you're spending money. In 5 months, you haven't made a penny. And I was like, okay, you're probably right. So I listened to him, and that's how I found DealMachine. So I stopped working with the former direct mail vendor I was using, which was Yellow Letters, HQ. And then I invested in DealMachine, and I just drove, I actually hired 2 of my friends. That's actually how Zach and I first worked together. He said, hey, I'll drive for you. I'm interested in real estate. I'll drive for you on a Saturday.
Oh, nice.
So him and another guy named Andrew and me, the 3 of us, we drove the entire CSRA. And I added up, it was like 412 streets that were like not in a subdivision, 260 subdivisions, and then like another 15 like quadrants where it was like not a subdivision, not a single street. And we mapped it all out and we drove the whole thing. And then I used DealMachine because the postcards were the quality was so great, and they felt good. They were like high quality postcards. And then, confound it if he was right, because a year later I went back and I did an analysis. I was like, I have bought, it was like 5 or 6 homes. I gave Ryan the data. This is back in the day. This was It was the latter half of 2021. So like moving into my second year. And sure enough, I mean, he was exactly right. Like I did 5 or 6 deals just off that. And I knew they were from DealMachine because I had driven them myself.
You remembered the address
I lived
of
in
the
this
house. You knew
I had lived in the city for my entire life. So I was like, yep, I remember driving that. I remember adding that to DealMachine, on the app. And so anyway, like it was just, sure enough, he was right. And by God's grace and generosity, I was able to do very well off and get another 5 deals.
I'm glad it worked out for you. Have you tried the AI that looks for the rundown houses for you now?
I haven't. I've only done,
You reverse engineered your deals, right? You plugged in your past 40.
That's right.
And then it looked at the property characteristics. It did look at the photos, but it also looked at the owner characteristics too, like age, where they're at in life, if they have kids that are like going to college, and it tried to find the most similar properties to the 40 you did.
Yeah.
Most 40 recent ones you did. So
yeah, and that's been huge. Like,
I know you did a $16K deal off that right away, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, for your listeners, we had breakfast this morning, and after the breakfast, when Zach and I were walking back to the hotel, I was like, the one thing I appreciate about DealMachine is just, y'all are kind of like Apple in that you're constantly innovating, and I feel like I can trust that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been... We don't know, that's why I like to catch up with you at these events, because I don't follow all the latest innovations, but then you brief me on them, and I'm like super grateful. We had a hurricane that came into our area and devastated the area. And because of my relationship with you, we were able to talk and put together, essentially, I sent you the data of the hundreds of homes I've bought in the last 4 years. And you were able to plug that in to the DealMachine analytics and basically create another 10,000 properties. And we only had an overlap of 1,600 for what we were already getting from our premium data provider.
Oh, interesting.
So we mailed those 10,000, and we've already been able to, like you said, one $16,000 deal, and then we're still sending out month 3 now of postcards. So it's just been, I appreciate the relationship and thankful for the collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. You were the first one that we used the AI on that sent out the marketing, and we just come out with that in the end of November.
Yeah,
actually.
So, and remind me, because all the things that it looks at, it's
the house, the satellite image, the Google Street image, also the property characteristics, like, hey, is this like a tired landlord situation? I mean, HOA, it looks at all of those data points, including the owners, right? And how old they are, if they have kids or not, if they're empty nesters or not. And it looks for the most similar house with the most owner in the most similar situation. And it kind of creates a score on how all these houses are similar to the deals you did. And then it just generates the 10,000 that are the most similar, looking at all those characteristics.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's beyond... I mean, obviously I understand it, but I'm just thankful because it works, right? And that's ultimately what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'd like to see a few more come from it.
Absolutely.
We'll see. We'll check in.
Yeah, I think
when you finish your marketing to it.
3rd month of mailers would go out in the next couple weeks or so.
Got it.
And so, I think for us to really be able to judge the full return on advertising spend for the campaign, we're going to have to wait till 6 months from whenever we started it.
Yeah, stuff trickles in. It's been run down if it's a rundown house for a long time. So it just have to be there when they're ready to sell.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the fact that we've already, I think we were going to mail, it was 8,600 leads. So that's, 50 cents a postcard, that's $4,300. We're going to do it for 3 months. So that's $12,900. And then we already have made $16,000 in the 2nd month after the 1st month of postcards went out. It's like,
well, following your own rule, I guess you want to do 3 to 6 months.
Yeah. I mean,
to bring it full circle.
So I mean, I'm already thrilled, and grateful.
Cool.
So it's all gravy from here.
Well, appreciate your time coming on the podcast again. First time in person.
Yes.
So look forward to talking with Zach, your acquisitions manager, tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thanks, David.
Yeah, man.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.